Tennessee, I think, is going to have a real chance to make the college football playoff. I'll leave that there. I sat down to do our college football playoff rough draft yesterday in the little back room that I'll sometimes work out of. I don't know what happened. I blacked out. I don't know what I put down. We'll have to revisit it. But it was tough trying to figure out who's going to be in that dance. But Tennessee, look at the schedule. Look at who they have on that roster. Look who's at quarterback. Just saying, they're going to have a chance now. But how's this offense going to look with the Nico Iamaleava era getting rolling? Nico time in Knoxville, baby. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of excitement around him for good reason, because of the physical traits, because of how highly he was rated out of high school. For us, again, the number one player in America out of high school in the class of 2023. Not number one quarterback, though he was that as well. Number one player. All right? That should mean something. So how is this offense going to look when you put a talent like Nico back at quarterback? We'll break it down right now. But hey, if you're a Tennessee fan, we've had a lot of y'all join the party here and be subscribed to this channel. So thank you for that. But if you're new, forget if you're a Tennessee fan or not. If you're just a college football sicko and you live and die by fall Saturdays, welcome home, baby. It's college football, nothing but college football all year round on this channel. So subscribe here so you don't miss a lick of what we're talking about on this show. Also, make sure you're dialed in over on the podcast platforms. Okay, Apple, Spotify, no judgment. Wherever you get your pods, we appreciate you getting your pods there. And you type in the hard count with JD Piquel, it'll pop up for you. So subscribe to that feed. Leave us a review. Just helps us help you. So we appreciate that. How this offense is going to look, the main things will be the main thing. We alluded to it earlier, or we talked about it earlier in our segment talking about the toughest offense to defend in all of college football. Tennessee will still be Tennessee with how they run this show. Spread you out. Try and push the ball vertical, and we'll talk about that. But, make no mistake, Tennessee is a run-the-football operation. They are. You think about Tennessee, and you think Hendon Hooker, and you think Jalen Hyatt, and you think about big pass plays, but, those pass plays happen because of what they do running the ball. Last year was no exception. Last year, they were a little bit more of a gritty football team in my mind than what they were in 2022 based on how they called the offense. 54% of the time, they ran the ball. Had success doing it too. 5 yards a clip. Good for number 10 in the country. And so the reason why that's so effective is a couple of reasons. One, Josh Heupel's a really freaking good coach. Two, they have good offensive linemen with good backs. But on top of that, we talk about how often they spread you out, and we talk about that in the sense of what it does for the pass game. That does a lot for the run game too. And I'm going to use a term here that a lot of coaches will use to talk about a safety or a linebacker. It's the overhang defender. If you can visualize this, it's typically the player that is probably trying to be a little bit outside the tight end, a few yards off the ball. So they're not a linebacker exactly, not a safety exactly. They're somewhere in the middle, though it could be one of those body types. What Tennessee does when they spread you out is they put the overhang defender in a bind. Because the overhang defender can't play the run and play the pass at the same time with how far they put out those splits. Like Squirrel White is all the way out there past the hash mark. I can't cover him in my zone or man coverage and also add in and make a tackle on inside zone. I can't do both. And so what that does is when you force that overhang defender to commit, it leaves grass either in front of him because he's playing the pass or behind him because he's playing the run. And so early on in the game, you'll see overhang defenders try and kind of play both and maybe be a little bit unsure of themselves. And when that happens, you know this, man. When you try and do two things well, you usually end up doing zero things well, and you end up getting gashed. Kind of how Tennessee operates offensively. So they do that, and then also they go with tempo. Now, tempo is the one thing I want to talk about here with a little bit more specificity. How about that? I think that's probably a big-time word in Scrabble. Specificity. Everyone's wondering, well, what about the O-line this year? What about the depth this year? Fair to have that concern. Tennessee is not going to ask their offensive line to hold blocks for 6 seconds. They're not going to ask their offensive line to make a pancake every single play. What they're going to ask their offensive line to do is execute at a high level with providing creases for their running backs. Okay, notice I said crease. I did not say pancake. I did not say dominate the opposition and put his face in the dirt. You'll take all that, and you'll see some of that from this group. I'm telling you, they got some nasty dudes, all right? Cooper Mays, Lance Heupel, they got some guys. But even with that being said, You just give them some daylight, we're getting north and south. Okay, that's what it's built on doing. They're not asking them to be just total dominators, total maulers up front, though you'll take that. So when you give them a crease, that's all you need. That's a lot easier to do. Again, asking a lot less physically of your offensive line. But speaking to tempo, the way that Tennessee's going to be conditioned, I'll tell you right now, man, you get a few plays into a drive and you're running a play every 20, 25 seconds, that push from the defensive line, a lot less on that fourth play than it was in the first play. Like, it's a lot easier to get a push up front. It's a lot easier to get that combo block on the inside zone going north and south. All right, so that's, I think, something that plays to their advantage. Doesn't have to be, the NFL style of offensive line. It just has to be enough to give us a crease, get a good push up front, be conditioned, and we're in good shape. Now, I think you'll see a fair amount of Nico Iamaleava just kind of sprinkled into the quarterback design run game. The reason why I love this for Tennessee is, remember that overhang defender I mentioned? When he's playing the pass, it creates what football people will talk about a lot with like a light box. You hear that a lot watching Tennessee games. They got a light box. What does that mean? It means that there is less defenders committed to defending the run. Essentially what it means. There's less guys in that square, if you put a square around the defensive line and linebackers, than there would be if they're trying to defend the run, because they're so worried about having it bombed over their head. Now, when you have a designed quarterback run, guess what? You get an extra blocker, all right? Nico Iamaleava is playing quarterback for you, so your running back gets to add in and block a linebacker, block a safety, block whoever, just block somebody, so we have one less guy that can tackle Nico. That's good for business. You saw it in the bowl game against Iowa. That is going to equip them to be really, really effective in the run game. Adds another element you have to defend. And I'm not even speaking to what he does when the play breaks down and how he ad-libs. I love that too, but in the design quarterback run game, that's going to make him a threat in a very, very real way. So we'll get to the pass game here right now. Like, everyone talks about how they throw the ball deep and the big plays, and that's true, but understand now, they build to those kind of plays. And that's why Nico excites me with this offense. Those deep passes happen because the intermediate passes happen first. And Joe Milton, again, I think he kind of gets a bad rap for what happened last year in Knoxville. But I think Nico is going to be more consistent than he was in that 10 to 15-yard range throwing the football. Like those deep digs, those curls, all those. I think Nico will hit at a higher rate. And when that happens, those safeties, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? I got to go make sure I make a tackle on that curl because I'm the last line of defense here. I can't have a catch and run scenario. And when that happens, safety's thinking a little bit. He's watching the curl. I'm watching the slot receiver in front of me score right, one of that, let's call it a 12-yard dig. Right behind me, though, Dante Thornton's streaking down the sideline. I'm flat-footed. He's open deep. Strike up the band. I'm not telling you it'll be that way every single time, but I think that's kind of the formula they want to roll with. Go tempo, run the football, put you in a bind with your safeties and your linebackers. You don't know what to cover. And once we start hitting those intermediate passes, a lot of green grass behind you. So that's very much so an overarching view as to how this is going to look. The big thing I want us to take away from this segment here, Nico's athleticism can be an extra element to knife through light boxes. Nico's ability to connect on the intermediate game is going to make for more deep splash plays. And then the quality of receiver he has and the quantity of receiver he has, I think, is improved from a season ago. Watch out for Chris Brazzell, healthy Brew McCoy, Squirrel White getting some help. Mike Matthews, like they got a lot of dudes now that can make plays if they can stay healthy. This offense, I think, will look a lot more similar to what it did in 2022. And that's good vibes for the folks out there on Rocky Top. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.